What's going on, everybody? It is your brother in the struggle. My name is Chris, and I'm here today with somebody very special. He is coming to us from the Reboot implementation program, and he's here today to talk to us about his experience while in that group. We've got the man, the myth, the legend, Evan, in the house today. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right. How are you going?
I am doing all right. Your time is precious, so we're going to get right into it. First things first, I'm curious, how did you first discover the Porn Reboot program to begin with?
Yeah, so basically I found it out around late December of 2021. It was around that time I was not special, but an incident happened where I was like thinking about what I was going through. And so I started trying to find other ways to deal and stop with my compulsive behavior. And I was looking up, I didn't know how to start. I looked up, I remembered a long time ago, I found that Terry Crews had a similar thing. So I looked up, what did Terry Crews do? He did an interview with someone that was also working against that behavior. And then as I kept looking, then found JK in the related video section. So that's how I found elevated recovery and all that way. So through Terry Crews.
No, thank you, Terry. All I see in my head is just the White Chicks theme.
Yeah, even that interview they asked him about White Chicks. So
of course, it's like him, that scene, and that song are just like a lock and key, man. Absolutely. But yeah, so a deep internet dive eventually led you to JK and his group.
Yes, exactly.
You joined the group in 2022, is that right?
Yeah, I had the call with one of his associates on New Year's Day of January 2022.
So it was somewhat of a New Year's resolution, maybe?
It just fell in that way. I joined the mailing group and everything. I looked at some of his videos and some of the podcasts the month prior, and so I thought I'll just join. But it was just the fact that it fell under New Year's Day was just a coincidence.
That's funny. Sweet serendipity, maybe.
Yeah.
So if you could take me through where you were at around that time, so New Year's Day, or before that time, New Year's Eve rather, right before that time, what was going on in your sort of behaviors around that time? What were some of the behaviors that you were trying to break out of that led you to seeking out help?
All right, so I'll go a little farther back, like the beginning of December, because that's the incident happened like early December. I remember it was one thing I did for a while, just in 2021, was like I started on a monthly basis going to two strip clubs, but that was closer to me. The other one was a little farther away. Actually, the other one was the one that they used for The Sopranos, which is a not a so fun fact, but that was just that they like to share that. But I would go to them on a monthly basis, just once a month from August till December. And then I would always go either on a Tuesday or Thursday night because it was not less people. It was easier to relax, not be bothered too much. And then, so what I was thinking, well, do I want to go? This was a Thursday. I was like, do I want to go today or do I want to go till next week on Tuesday? I decided I'll go that night because I've ever had a issue with work and just wanted to blow off steam, and was just, as I learned, like same repetition onward and onward. So I went there on Thursday and thought nothing of it. I found out that the following Tuesday, police came, raided the place, and 9 people were arrested. So I thought it was interesting. It was not interesting, but it was like, oh, this is not a good idea. And then that's when I decided that I would try to stop that. And first I thought maybe I should stop going to the club, but still just keeping to internet stuff. I was like, that doesn't seem like it's good either way. So that's what made me decide to start changing and look into different things. That was the inciting incident.
Got you. So that was like what's the expression? Like the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak.
Yeah, pretty much. I thought I was a little too lucky, and I felt like luck would run out. So I was like, yes, I had to stop.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. I 1,000,000,000% have been there myself, where like law enforcement could even possibly be part of the situation, and just to make it out of that situation by the skin of your teeth or some serendipitous thing or luck or whatever you want to call it. I have been there, and yeah, huge wake up moment for me too, so I can relate. So you're getting involved in that sort of scene for a given amount of time. Once you finally joined the group, what was your experience like? And could you talk about maybe some things you've learned along the way?
Yeah, so what I learned, one thing that I was able to get into pretty fast was the idea of not counting. And so that was one thing that was very helpful. And it was a start, like, no matter what happened, that's just from that day forward, that's when the change happened. You didn't have to focus too much on keeping a score. And I guess since it also happened on New Year's Day, it's easier not to count too, which is very good. But then I also learned about, also the good thing about was like accountability partners, and then just having other people in this group was also beneficial. That was pretty good. And during that time when I started, there was not that many. They didn't have many of the Zoom sessions. It was just only Milan. But as Eastman and Rankin also came in, I mostly did the Eastman ones because they just fit better with my schedule. But I did hop in a few Rankin's sessions, and they were also pretty nice too. So like that, those were all great and beneficial. And then one other one that became a nicer surprise later on was probably the rationale tool.
Yeah, the rational exercise, super, game changer. You touched upon the coaching calls for a second, and you also mentioned that there was a time when all the coaching calls that we have weren't a thing. And there was the weekly Q&A calls with JK, but not really much of anything else. But given amount of time, we're introduced to this person named Milan, who helps us with like reprogramming and mindset. There's Dr. Eastman, who specializes in trauma recovery. We've got Dr. Rankin, who is a life coach. Can you touch upon your experience with each of the different kinds of coaching calls?
Yeah, so the majority I've done was pretty much the Eastman ones because I felt that was the more relevant in terms of how I got started, to see how I could deal with that and any lingering thoughts. And I like the way how it was set up, where it was pretty much you did the post a question in advance, and then you listen, and then we could come get some help with it. And I felt like also as well that's necessary, because I do feel like it is traumatizing whatever you deal with, and if it's not addressed in some shape or form, I could join the group and then I find a partner, but eventually you have to deal with it later. And I remember JK said you have to first get the habits and then deal with the past. Most people do the opposite, just try to figure out what went wrong and then worrying about the now. So that was actually pretty helpful, and that was all pretty eye-opening. I do say that one thing for sure with at least Reboot was like it gave me a lot of different things that were different from common knowledge, such as instead of not count, don't count. Life has to be balanced, and then try to deal with the now, and then focus later on what happened was better. Were basically the top three things I've learned. But as well as the Milan sessions. And the Milan sessions and the Rankin sessions, just due to the time where I didn't get a chance to join them all the time. But I do remember at least the one thing I did like about the Rankin ones were that they were more of an open conversation. There was no question you just hand in. It was just whatever topic it was. And then people would just go ahead and chat. And I had to also just put it as an advisory. It was less had to do with impulsive behavior, but everything else around it. It also had a sense of these are also shared issues that someone else, a fellow lad, could be having, that I was having, that I didn't even know could be more or less quasi-related, and then how I could also work amongst that as well.
Yeah, no, totally. His sessions are definitely a little bit more open, and like you said, I love how you said it. It's definitely more of an open conversation between brothers, really. But I also like how you said that a lot of the group calls, they're less about compulsive behaviors, they're about the things that are surrounding him, right? This is where the concept of reboot capital comes into play.
Yeah.
Right? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, basically the one thing also I remember was being told don't do all the types of capitals. There's various capitals in there, and I would say to focus on two and still work on the other ones, but not as much. Like prioritize too is the better way to say it. So at the beginning when I joined, I prioritize my self-care capital and my financial capital, and had some goals like such as paying off car insurance, paying off my car, and doing certain stuff, and having a morning routine and an evening routine that was related to healthcare. Because although I would like to say I did pretty good before that, I was very sluggish, and I felt like that was like a symptom too with the behavior, because you're just slacking off most of the time. So that was what I was focusing on. And luckily I was able to pay off. I have a Jeep and I was able to pay it off 3 months in. So that was like my part of the 1 year, 3 month goal. That was the end of the 3 month goal. So that was also great, to just a good start to the year and the start to the reboot.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
No, I just want to point out the fact that, like, you, for the first few months, right, you spent that season, quote unquote, prioritizing just a couple of aspects of Reboot without trying to do everything all at once. You were focusing on your self-care, you were focused on your financial aspect of things and solidifying your routines. And that's a really awesome approach. And you were able to pay off your car, money that you may have, had you not been in the program, maybe spent on going to like strip clubs or what have you. Like, you focus that money, you prioritize that situation there, you were able to invest fully in that area of Reboot capital, which is awesome.
Yes, yeah. One thing you mentioned was like, what I would have done with the money. And there was many times I thought like how I would have been if I didn't decide to join 2 years ago. And I always theorized, and I definitely was like, where most of where the money that I was using for this was basically my savings. I went through a car accident a long time ago, and so I had a good amount of savings. Very gracious compared to if someone had that amount of money, they're just like, they wouldn't know what to do with it, and neither did I. So I was like wondering, what could I do? I could have probably done it with my career. I could use it for traveling, and because of this behavior, I would say I've wasted maybe 60% of that towards that, and that's not a good number. You'd think at first it's like a nice ravishing way to show off, but once it's gone, then that's when the actual part goes on. Like, it's just pretty much the buffer. So I figured that out once I joined the program. So I was trying to, my part that I got into a frenzy was trying to replenish that money, try to go back to whatever 100% was. And 100% was doable, but it would take a while, and I was getting impatient. So I had to focus on looking back at how I would do my financial reboot.
Yep.
In per se. But one thing for sure, I did pretty good. I did some things too, like with my credit card and with my ATM bank, and I had to go in person for it. I put a middleman in with my savings. Just it's harder. It's a lot difficult to make it feasible to try to go act out on those behaviors, so you have more time to think. But one thing I did thought, if I didn't join the program, I would have lost all that money. It would have been gone. So luckily, there is still a good portion of it. It's still quite a lot for someone to have, but it would definitely have been gone a lot faster.
Good on you for, like I said, just disciplining your time and focus on your financial reboot, which leads me to another question. The way that you may have handled your financial situation in the past, or the way you would have prioritized or not prioritized your self-care in the past, versus now, having been through the program and having learned what you've learned and experienced what you've experienced, where are you at now these days?
Right now, where I'm at now these days is, I was saying this actually, for some reason, just like the start of this year, there was a recording, it's only been like 3 weeks into 2024, but it's already been a pretty good 2024. But I had like goals, which was like to visit a few places in particular, get back to having a routine with the putting money into the savings in a more manageable way. Before, I was trying to put whatever amount I earned go straight to the savings, and it was not although you think that's a good idea, it's not a really good idea. But then, as well as getting back to what I used to do beforehand, which was like used to take pictures. So one of my little partial goals is just to save up money for a camera and then start shooting. And now it's time now, since I have all the routines and I have a better sense of how to manage it. It's also going to therapist weekly just to see of like how to deal with. Now it's time to worry about the before. So now worrying about the before is what I'm doing now.
That's awesome. So you're seeing a therapist now?
Yeah, I was seeing for like now approximately 2.5 months. 2.5 months. Yeah, now knows about the behavior, and it's been quite a long time since I went to that club establishment. Which is awesome. Yes, which is good.
Good for you, man. That's really cool. So I remember when I first joined the group having a lot of anxiety, and maybe you can relate, just like feeling really overwhelmed with all of the material, with all the modules and all of the people, and what is a reboot hero? Like, you're just learning what everything's about all at once, it seems. It's a lot to take in at first, for sure. But having gone through and, like I said, learned what you've learned and experienced what you've experienced, if you could give any words of wisdom or any advice to somebody who might be just joining the group, right? That for a long time, like you and me, have struggled in silence on their own, is there anything that you would like to share with that person?
Yeah, so I would say one definitely word of advice is like definitely one thing everyone should do when join is definitely do get an accountability partner. But I would try to add to that is try to get an accountability partner if you can that's more or less nearby you geographically. It could be just so it could be easier, just you don't have to worry about time zones, or if you're able to meet up, it's good you don't keep it all virtual. You could actually have someone in front of you that's going through the same struggle would be also will actually reinforce that you're not alone in there. And it's better just to keep contact. I did meet a lot of APs, and I have some APs, but they were all two were in London. One was from Indonesia, and then the other was from the Netherlands. And it does let you know that there's other people around the world that's there to help you, but as you also need someone more closer to you, just so you have that person in a pinch. So that's one thing I do recommend just to keep in mind. But as well as with all the material, there was a PDF on how like the first few weeks should go. So I just follow that few weeks. Don't try to check everything off in advance, and just take it easy. It's gonna be, you have the program for at least a year, and if it's not, you have a year, so don't try to rush a year's worth of material in a month. And if you do rush a year's worth of material in a month, it's going to be too much, and remember the 80-20 rule. You're probably going to lose 80% of what you earned, and the 20 will still be valuable. If you do it slowly, it will be the reverse, where you keep 80% and maybe need a refresher on 20.
I think that's really solid advice, seriously. And I think that is a strong correlation between your advice and how you actually went about things, going back to what you were mentioning earlier, and that how you focused particular and special attention toward just a few aspects of your own reboot, rather than, like we said, try to cram everything into 1 month, like trying to do a little bit at a time. And I think that's such sound advice, really important advice. Mm-hmm. Just because you're doing more doesn't always necessarily mean that you're rebooting more.
Yeah, I think many people probably get misconstrued, because one thing I do remember from my first chat with my coach was that he said, more or less, quote on, not verbatim, but close enough, was to like, the more you put in, the more you'll get from. And I guess many people could misconstrue that as like being monk mode. And for some people that just interested may not know what that means, but you'll figure it out when you join, and you'll see a few people do that, and it never works. It never works, and it doesn't work for anything else in life. You'll burn out pretty fast, and then you'll go back to your old ways. So people go back to the old scheme of things, and lose all the progress. And I think I've seen many people do that, and many people have left. And I feel like it's just more imperative just to ease it off. Like, it's just a whole little journey. Like, maybe focus on one, prioritize one capital, whatever you want. At least try to post bi-weekly and join whichever Zoom session you want. But that's enough for a while. And then once you get the routine, it becomes second nature. You can just expand and expand.
Totally. Evan's quote, everybody, it's a whole little journey.
Yeah.
So take your time, pace. But closing things off here on our way there, let's say you meet somebody who might be very, like I said, anxious, despondent, apathetic, and going through their stuff, working through a behavior that's proven to be unhealthy for them. Would you recommend this program to them?
I would recommend it to them. I would first maybe see how dedicated they would be, because many people would probably be interested in, but they're probably still be hesitant, or maybe they're not too fully into. They didn't have their inciting incident that made them decide to change that. Maybe they're slowly doing it little by little. So I'll probably just give them one tip that I've learned and see if they like it. And if so, I could give them a good gift. Yeah, that's a good word. And it is probable, and I've seen many people that probably would need it. It's just more a factor of if they're themselves already. Because although I knew this was an issue for quite a while, I didn't want to do anything about it, because it felt, at that time I thought, I was like, oh, I have to go to rehab, and rehab for anything is bad, but rehab going for this type of addiction seems like weirdly embarrassing. So you just have to get over that, and then something will wake you up. So I'll see if they're ready, and then do their recommendation, because everyone in the group is not trying to waste no one's time. So you have to be first for sure. This is what you need to do.
And I think that's solid words from you as well. You want to make sure that you're not just willing, but you are ready for.
Right.
You're going to learn a lot, and if you join the group, there's a lot you're going to take from it, but it's work. Especially with guys like us that have conditioned ourselves to behave and cope in certain ways. Breaking those internal patterns are much easier said than done. But once you get the hang of it, it really is it is a life-changing investment and a life-changing choice.
Yes, yeah, for sure. It's a whole investment, and there's a lot of different things you'll realize have changed that are so minor that are for the good, and some will be pretty instantaneous too, like how you see things, or like how certain things that, like certain simple things that used to frighten you will no longer frighten you. You don't have to worry. Like, it's a very small example. One fear I'd always have worries if I'm in a bus and I just have to look up something on Safari on my phone. I always have to worry, like, if I deleted my history or whatever, and you don't get that worry anymore. And then you'll be worried, this is actually, it's very liberating. That's like the spark, and then everything else will go nice.
That's awesome, man. Evan, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing your heart. Thank you for sharing your journey, and all the best to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.